talk about it. All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to call to order the Pennsylvania County Fire and Rescue Commission meeting Thursday, May 23rd, 2024, 6:30 p.m., 39 Bank Street, Chatham, Virginia. Would please call the roll.
Jimmy Atkins,
Present.
Ben Meeks,
Present.
Alan Casper,
Here.
Ward Rowland,
Here.
Tim Cassell,
Here.
Brian Shields,
Here.
Kermit King,
Here.
Steve Stallings,
Here.
Coleman Mayhew,
Here.
Bert Sellers.
All right, thank you. Vic did call me and Bert did before to let me know they're not going to be able to make it tonight. They had some things come up, and Vic's at a meeting for the county in Henry County. All right, just going to bring us down to item 3. If y'all would, we'll observe a moment of silence. All right, thank y'all. If you would, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Brings us down to item 5. Going to be any additions or revisions to the agenda. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Jimmy Atkins,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland,
Yes.
Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Brian Shields,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. That motion passes. That brings us down to presentations. Have any presentations, Director?
Skip the minutes.
Oh, yep, I need to do the minutes, don't I? Thank you. Sorry about that, y'all. Item 7, minutes approval. Take a moment to review those, and then we'll approve them if y'all so see fit. All right. Is there any additions need to be made to the minutes? Or if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Okay, got a motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, call the roll, please.
Jimmy Atkins,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland,
Yes.
Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Brian Shields,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
All right, thank y'all. Now we're at number 8, presentations. Do we have any presentations, Director?
No presentations.
All right, thank you, sir. Brings us down to item 9. Do we have any citizens signed up?
No, sir.
All right, moving right along. Brings us down to item 10, Fire and Rescue Association reports. And I believe Chief Damian Maracas is here. So, Chief, the floor is yours.
So the only thing I've got is some of the concerns we had over the ordinance. There was some fire building ordinance verbiage that they were concerned about. I found that, and as well as Casey found that as well. the section 11-84, it shows fire service billing fees and charges program. So that's already in there. I know that had been a discussion. I don't know that needs to go any further, or Chris?
It should be mirrored what the EMS billing is, so the only thing they had to do was get the rates.
Okay. And that committee hasn't met yet as well. And the only other announcement was the firefighter 1 and EMT ceremony was for June 27th at 18:30 hours. That's for all those that had passed their firefighter 1 and EMT.
Yes, I wanted to just touch on that. Thank you, Chief Maracus. So the 27th of June, we're going to have a firefighter 1 and EMT graduation ceremony. I think it was 40, I want to say it was 48, I believe, students finished between the two classes for firefighter 1, something like that. And then roughly 10 or so EMTs finished up as well at our class in Tunstall. So we're going to recognize, we just seen fit to, the association level did, to recognize those folks. It's going to be held at Chatham Middle School at 6:30. We're going to invite all the Board of Supervisors. All you commissioners are invited. We just asked if you would, so I'll throw Chris on the spot, just RSVP to Chris and he can pass it along to me or Chief Fowler. I just want to make sure we got enough refreshments for everyone. We'll have light refreshments that night. I know the director's working on a program, and we're going to have all the chiefs there from the agencies that's being represented. All, of course, the members that took these classes and completed them, and we've also allowed them to bring 2 family members with them, and then all the instructors, of course. We don't want to leave out the instructors. Just so everybody understands, I know most of you on this body do, but a firefighter 1 class now is upwards of about 186, I think, hours, 186 hours, very physical class, and about that same amount of time for EMT. Very hard class, EMT is, passing that National Registry test. So we just are looking to do this as an opportunity to thank those folks and show them a little bit of appreciation. We're going to give them a little certificate with the county seal on it for completing the class, and may even ask some of the board members to speak. But it should be a good night. It's kind of in the planning, but it's set in stone. It's going to be Chatham Middle School, 6:30 the 27th. So, all right, anything else, Chief Maracus? Thank you, sir. We'll probably come back to you when we get to item D. All right, county staff reports. Director Key.
Yes, sir. Under grants, we've just a reminder of the JT Mini Mall grant deadlines coming up June 1st. The Community Foundation cycle starts June 1st and closes at the end of July. The CAD server migration has been complete. Yes, okay, still got a thumbs up back there. We're holding our breath, everything holds. That was a large task that was taken on by Daniel. And it's been minimal interruptions, I'll give it that. And it's worked smoothly. I don't want to jinx it, but let's just keep our fingers crossed. We've got a mass casualty drill along with the Sheriff's Department on August 23rd at Unique Industries. We'll need lots of manpower if at all possible that day. Anybody wanting to train on it? The fire rescue study, I met with ESCI today. They settled on June 10th that week of coming around and doing the site visits. So I'll be contacting each chief officer to find out what time would work best to get a schedule of that up and running. And the pre-hospital meeting at Sova Hospital is June 5th at 6 p.m. in a large dining room. I can't hear you. And you said Gretna's is the 6th. Okay, at 6 p.m.
All right, any questions for the director? Director Key, on the MCI drill, you are encouraging agencies to reach out to you if they would like to put an ambulance and personnel and I guess fire trucks, whatever. You just kind of need all of it, right, for that?
Yes. We're not going to transport from the scene. We'll just basically transport to the next building, but you'll have to get all that in. And also, we're offering that rescue task force class again. If anybody wants that, we'll be happy to come to the stations to teach that, to show how we integrate in with the Sheriff's Department to make those rescue task forces.
Awesome. I encourage my fellow commissioners, if y'all can, and even the board of supervisors, if you have time that day, come down and take a look at what they're doing. It's kind of unique to see what we're up against. Obviously this is a simulated, to a degree, they try to make it real, but it's a simulated drill, but it's very interesting to see how much goes into this. The last thing I had on the fire and rescue study, I heard you say all the agencies will now have their information submitted. What was the date? Did you give a date? I was trying to write stuff down of when they were going to start calling to set up station visits.
Yeah, it'll be the week of June 10th.
Okay.
Actually, it'll be me doing the calling. They want me to go ahead and get all that lined up. So I'll be calling. We'll start probably around lunchtime and go till 8 or 9 o'clock each night. That
Okay.
way, everybody can't meet during the daytime, so those guys understood. We're basically going to sort of divide the county up and be able to go out and visit. It's going to be about an hour and a half visit.
So that was going to be my next question, just so the agencies that are listening, or maybe in the audience, or some of you that are here on the commission that also volunteer, what exactly would help them with to smooth that process? What should we have available and ready for them, obviously, other than just the equipment?
They really, they're not coming to inspect stations or the apparatus. We've submitted all that information. They may want to just, walk by and look at it, but he said he was going to submit questions, and I'll forward that to all the chief officers so that way you'll know basically, so that way things don't go one way at one station, another way at another station. They want certain topics to be brought up and discussed. But we did bring it up today, and he said he'd get me that within the next few days, so I'll send that out to all the departments.
Great, thank you. All right, any other for the director? All right, here none, we're going to go down to unfinished business. Any unfinished business? I know there's a few items that kind of connect under new business with that, so we'll just get into those. Hearing no unfinished business, okay? It's going to bring us down to 13A. Again, Board of Supervisors, Mr. Ingram is out of town tonight, or he's in another county for a meeting. It was pretty important. He did call me earlier. He spoke to myself and the vice chair that he wasn't going to be here. He said to tell you guys he was sorry that he wasn't going to be able to be here, but he wanted me to pass along that and this kind of, I guess, ties with A and B. The Fire and Rescue Memorial is very close to getting off the ground. They're going to be selling pavers for $100 a piece that you'll be able to purchase. So if you have a loved one, family member, whatever is involved in fire and rescue or any service that you want to be honored, you'll be able to purchase a paver. He's working on setting that up. He had several individuals' names that he called that are helping him with this to get it set up. I guess it'll be a 501c3 so that you can make your donations to, and you'll have a paver placed at the foot of the memorial for the two LODDs we've had, line of duty deaths we've had in this county. And he said things are progressing well, and he will be back next month to give us a more in-depth review of where he's at on that. So, and that was all he had. He just said, keep up the good work, y'all. It's going to bring us down to item C now, Drug Box Committee update, and that's that'll be me. So get my notes from last night. There was plenty, and Casey was there, so she can chime in as well if I miss something or mess something up. So to kind of review with you guys, we had our second Drug Box meeting last night. It went really well. On the agenda, we done a demo for the first hour with a narc box company that sells a computerized system that goes inside of the actual ambulances and inside your building to track all your drugs and have administrative reports and all the safe keeps that the DEA requires. A whole lot safer than just a lockbox with a random pen and a piece of paper, which does meet DEA requirements if you read it. But it's we want to be as safe as we can and have transparency with all our agencies and our public safety staff and all of our providers and our community. So these systems that have more built-in safeties and securities is what we need to be looking at. We plan on demoing 3 systems. We demoed our first one last night. That was a little over an hour long, the demo was. We learned a lot about it. got some pricing, asked a lot of questions. All these systems are obviously DEA compliant. And then we're going to demo a second system at our next meeting in July. Our next meeting, Casey, you help me with that date.
June 25th.
June 25th. So the next meeting is June 25th. And again, that meeting will be open to all of the agencies. We've had great participation from the volunteer agencies. The first meeting, we had all 11 volunteer agencies, and we had public safety there. Last night, we had 10 of the agencies there in public safety. Casey's been a great help helping me set up the State Office EMS, or West Virginia EMS Council, I'm sorry, has also zoomed in and met with us at both of those meetings, and they plan to continue to do that to help us walk us through these steps. So once we finished that demo, we rolled right into a meeting with Chris Christensen, which is our representative for this area for the West Virginia EMS Council. He gave us a lot of information, a lot of updates, kind of eased our minds on some things, and then made us draw big question marks on other things that they're still working on. Just to highlight a few things that he did discuss. So they approved, they passed emergency regulations on May the 2nd. The Board of Pharmacy did, which is who you get your controlled substance license through. Those emergency regulations, though, are concurrent with the DEA. So currently, the DEA has regulations out, but they are updating their regulations. The hope is that their regulations are going to be out soon regarding the narcotics that we'll be using, and that their regulations and the Board of Pharmacies are going to mirror each other. So they wrote these regulations with the hopes that the DEA is going to go concurrent with them and read the same language. Does that sound like I'm saying that right, Casey? Again, that's just right now is their hope. The DEA could come out and say, no, we're going to do something completely different. And the problem is it's an election year for the president, and so they don't make a lot of changes in the election year. So they said if the regulations aren't out within the next couple weeks, then Congress probably will not roll out any regulations until the start of the new year under the new presidency. Is that correct, Casey, how I said that? So I asked that question, well, what do? We still have to have a way to service our citizens with drugs and to do it by the law. And so what he said was we would just follow the current DEA regulations, which obviously has different language than what the Controlled Substance License, Board of Pharmacy License says. So we would have to kind of meet both standards. So it's kind of a sticky situation what we're trying to do here, but the Office EMS, West Virginia EMS Council, our elected officials for state and federal levels is trying to work on all this. Some things that they did roll out with these emergency regulations. The license allows one entity with a CSR or a DEA license, both, they gotta have both. So your controlled substance license through Board of Pharmacy and your drug enforcement agency license to distribute meds to other agencies. So example, just something, not saying this is what they're gonna do, but like the EMS Council for Western Virginia could get a DEA license and a CSR license, and they could procure the drugs, and then they could administer the drugs to the agencies. Now, the likelihood, from what Chris said, of that happening is little to none because they don't have the staff to do that, right? They don't just represent Pennsylvania County, which has 12 agencies. They represent a whole region of the state. So they don't have the staff for that. But that was just an example. What he said most likely they were going to do is the council is going to procure drugs, so they'll still get their own controlled substance license, their own DEA license, and they will buy drugs in mass quantities, and then they will sell them to us at cost because they'll get them on a state contract, and they will sell them to the agencies and public safety within this county and within the region at cost. So we'll save us a tremendous amount of money on drugs. I mean, I gave the example last meeting, a box of fentanyl, I think comes with 10 or 20 vials, was like $786. If we got them through Gretna with our current license. This Western Virginia EMS Council off the state license can get it for like $17 a vial, and they can sell it in a lot smaller quantities if they procure the drugs and then sell it like that to us. So it's going to help us cut down on our waste of drugs. It's going to help us hopefully maximize the usage of the funding that we get to be able to procure these drugs, and help us out that way. So that was one of the things they changed. Another one is they put in the emergency regulations to allow for the one-to-one exchange to continue to happen. Now I will tell y'all, so when I say one-to-one, if we use a vial of fentanyl, we'll just say that again. Currently with the regulations, we could do a one-to-one exchange at the hospital, but the hospitals have said they are not going to continue doing that after November because they just want to get out of the drug box business. What the hospitals did say is your Schedule 6s, like your bags of saline, your flushes, those type things, they will still supply us. So we'll be able to do a one-to-one exchange. So if I use a bag of saline on an individual, I bring him with an IV, they'll give me a bag of saline. Am I saying that correct, Casey? So that was something that is a positive that come out of these. All the hospitals also in our region that represent all the agencies in our county that transport, those hospital systems have agreed or in favor of giving all of the drugs that are currently in the drug boxes to us when November 27th rolls around. So right now, we have a drug kit in the ambulance. It's got all the drugs in it that we need to run a call. What they're going to do November 27th through protocols they're currently writing in conjunction with the state is they're going to basically sign those drugs over and gift them to the agencies. So they will become the agency's property, and they'll have to then inventory them, and they'll be that agency's drugs. But what that does is it allows us to kind of get up and running with everybody having a complete drug kit to give us more time to get outfitted with all of our drugs and replacement drugs that we're going to need. So that's a good thing. Another thing we learned, an EMT can, let's see here, an EMT can be the second person, and they can restock and do those sort of things as long as your OMD approves. Is that correct, Casey? How I said that?
Correct.
And there is a little bit of gray area there because it said a provider. It doesn't actually say EMT. So I know some agencies have like a driver operator program where they have one EMT and then they have one non-EMS licensed individual driving the ambulance and helping out as a second person. They still have, CPR, emergency vehicle operations course, those type things, but they're not actually EMT. We questioned, those individuals still have to have a background check. They still have to be on the portal for the state, for the EMS agency that is their agency they run with. So would they count as a second person to be able, and that gray area was, maybe it's going to be, that's something that's getting investigated, and Chris is going to get back with us. But we know at least EMTs can be that second person. So that was a plus. And the other thing they approved in these regulations is drugs can be transported to different locations within an agency's vehicle. So, for example, I'm going to use public safety because they have multiple stations. Casey's going to have her main building with her drugs. She needs to go to Medic 1. She can put it in her county vehicle and drive it to Medic 1 legally. Before, the regulation wasn't there for her to do that because it's not, that just wasn't allowed. Now the regulation says that is a agency vehicle. She can place it in there, drive it to them, and then secure it in their cabinet there. So that's good. That helps out public safety. And let's see here. No alarms are going to be required. So we have one first responder agency left in the county? Is that Dry Fork?
Right.
So Dry Fork will benefit from this. It won't affect any of the rest of us, but they changed the regulations. So right now it was required you have an alarm system on your controlled substance room. If you're only stocking Schedule 6 drugs, you don't need an alarm system. So Example, Dry Fork can, because, it's just normal saline salt water and flushes. It's not actually medications. It's just normal saline, that type of stuff that they would use. So that will help them out. The rest of us will transport, so that doesn't matter to us. Let's see here. So the other thing that came up, he reminded us to make sure that, and we approved it here, and I guess now's when we can talk about it, the DARA form or whatever that we fill out basically says even though we're all separate entities, we all have our own 501c nonprofit organization, and we all have our own licenses and stuff, we still are a part of the EMS system in the county, so Chris has to sign when we recert and all that for our EMS license. If he, from the way I understood this, if they certify that, then it waives the $800 fee that's required when we apply for our DEA license for all the volunteer agencies. This body made a motion to send that to the Board of Supervisors, which before it got to them to go to legal counsel and to work with legal counsel and the Board of Supervisors. So Chris, did you have an update on that?
The county attorney has been working on it.
Okay.
He hadn't come back with a decision on it yet.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir. We are looking at wasting stations for the hospitals. So another big deal with all of this is you can't just take drugs and have a second person watch you shoot it down a sink anymore in a hospital. That's just it's not legal. The drug has to be disposed of. So basically from the birth of the drug, when it comes from the pharmacy, to the death of the drug or whatever, when it's the drug is expired or used and you're wasting whatever's left over, that has to be tracked. So we're looking at wasting stations at the hospitals. That's something that's being talked about. We've also, our committee has, we have established or found it's basically a jug for all intents and purposes, but that can go at each station. It's a pretty cheap program. It's Board of Pharmacy approved, DEA approved to waste your drugs in. So let's say, I transport somebody and I give 40 mics of fentanyl, and I got 60 left over and I need to waste it. Then myself and Kermit King could watch me and sign as my witness that I wasted in that Board of Pharmacy approved container, and that we have a third party that comes and dumps it and collects all that paperwork, that it's been correctly disposed of and we didn't take it somewhere. And so that is legal. What is not legal is taking a drug that has expired and popping the top on it and pouring that over in there. Because that drug has to, since it's unsealed, it has to be put, basically, I don't know if you want to call it sold back, but it has to be reversed in the process and be sent back to a third party to dispose of it as is, completely sealed with all the drug inside the vial. So that's something we're trying to figure out that's going to cost. I mean, it's just going to be a service fee that we're going to have to pay to have a third party service that. I would like to get the same service provider for all of the county agencies, including public safety, but that's to be determined if that's going to be possible and what that's going to cost. Another good thing we looked at is it's encouraged to check the drugs daily, but what we were concerned about, there were questions that come up. What are we going to do, especially in a rural county like this? Number one, we have ALS staffed agencies, but let's say we have a BLS staff that day. So to have an ALS ambulance, you got to have an ALS drug kit on it. But you only have BLS providers on it. Well, it doesn't matter. Office EMS says if that's an ALS licensed ambulance, it will have ALS drugs on it. So we talked about that, and the good thing about one of these systems, if we go with one of these automated systems, which we're going to basically have to, you can take the drug kit, intermediate or medic can take the drug kit with the narcotics out from the main base station, log that kit out, and then log it into the secured RFID secured box in the ambulance, and it's secured, double locked. You got to have your fingerprint, or you got to use a code to get into it, or you got to scan your card. It's multiple verification for identification to get into it. But once it's placed in there, that box knows, Ben Meeks opened this box date and time. And I can put it in there, and then I can do a count. The system will count all the tags and tell me which drugs is in that box, in that kit. And then it's secure. And as long as that cabinet don't get open, and if it does, it's going to log who opened it, and it's going to send a notification. It's all in the history that the administrators can look and see, Alan Casper entered that kit, entered that box at such and such time. And so it's all just transparency and traceability. Those kits, what that allows us to do is to leave them on the truck. So we can leave them on the ambulance, and they're secured inside of that. So now, even though we have 2 EMTs or an EMT and a driver, that ambulance still has the drugs that's required to be on it per EMS, and we don't have to worry about, well, how are we going to do that in this county that doesn't have a paramedic on every truck every day? It's not possible. So that was one thing that we are happy about. Now, there is still, you still need to be checking your drugs. There's still going to be requirements. Doesn't mean you put the kit on there and it sits a month. There's still DEA requirements that they must be checked, but it gives us some leeway there. The next, what I would call big meeting is June the 10th. That's the next board.
11th.
Is it the 11th?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the Board of Pharmacy meeting. I actually wrote the 11th and crossed it out.
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the town hall meeting.
Yeah, so the 10th is when the board, so the Board of Pharmacy is going to meet again on the 10th to kind of fine tune. Now they've got regulations established. Now they can start fine tuning, kind of helping us getting established, because November's coming, and we still got to get everybody licensed. We got to get everybody's rooms done in their buildings, which is going to require, I would say, 3/4 of the agencies to do some sort of renovations. I know Public Safety's done theirs, and that was about $6,000. Does that sound about right? And that's give or take what it's going to be pretty much across the board. And then once we get that, in fact, if you guys will reference, I think it's in your packet. If you'll reference the document, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I got some copies I can explain it. The EMS agency pharmacy setup process, I can't take credit for this. This was actually given to me by someone else. This is the director of Floyd County's public safety. They come up with this because they're working on theirs as well, and we've kind of adopted this as our committees because it's the same process, right? We're all across the states having to do this. But this is the processes that to get to where we need to be. Just to review that, we've got to set up our med storage rooms that meets the alarm system requirements. The next step is we got to complete the Virginia Board of Pharmacy CSR application, which is a fee. You fill out the application, you send it in, and you have to send that in with rules and regulations, for SOPs for each department. Once that's done, they will come out and inspect. As long as you pass your Board of Pharmacy inspection, you will then file for your DEA license, which is your Form 224. That's online, and then you'll wait for your drug inspection, your drug ID number. Then you choose your vendors, your med vendors, including your Schedule 2s through 6. So who are you going to procure your drugs through? You're going to choose a DEA registered reverse distributor. So that's where I was talking about. Who can a reverse distributor is the ones that will take the drugs back that you don't use. So if you got a vial of fentanyl that you don't use, they take that whole vial back. Of course, you have to pay for that. And then you also, your medication waste stations that I talked about earlier. And then the last thing is your reinspection. And so every 2 years, the Board of Pharmacy, they were re-inspected in 1 year, and then every 2 years after that. Also, the DEA does an audit every year. So every agency will be audited yearly by the DEA. That is something that, I've emphasized to people, we've got to keep good records because the Board of Pharmacy is coming every 2 years to inspect and to audit, and the DEA is coming every year to audit. So I got extra copies after the meeting if anybody wants to come get one just to look at, but that's in your packet. So that's kind of where we're at. Our committee has worked hard. We were there over 3 hours last night, and we got through about 3 bullets on a 10-bullet agenda, so, and we had to call it for the night. So we're working hard trying to get this stuff done for the entire county to make sure that our system is not interrupted and our service is not interrupted to our citizens. So again, June the 10th is the next big Board of Pharmacy meeting, where more direction will come out to us. And then June the 11th is a town hall that I encourage anybody on a volunteer station. I'm sure Public Safety will have a representative. I will be on there. Other commissioners, it's going to be through a Zoom meeting, and that'll be statewide. It's a town hall meeting. Is that state or is that Western Virginia?
Western Virginia.
Sorry, it's West Virginia, so it'll be the region. And basically, it's going to be a question and answer type deal where they will go through so far where we're at, and they will offer an opportunity for anybody to ask questions, and they will give you answers based off, what they've been given on their side. I will say I can't ask for a better representation so far from Western Virginia. They've worked really hard trying to help us with this process. I know there was a thing sent out recently by the Office of EMS they were trying to do basically a poll to see how the EMS councils, if it was still feasible to keep them in service and what kind of work they were doing. And I made sure I filled it out and gave them good feedback because those guys really are helping us out. And again, I really want to thank Casey and Chris. Casey's really helped me out so far. And all the agencies, they've sent a representative for every meeting. We got an email chain going. And then June the 11th is the town hall. And then we are going to set up at our next meeting a demo with the same system that the county has already demoed for public safety. We're going to demo for all the volunteer agencies. And then hopefully we'll have one more demo, and then we'll be coming back to this body and ultimately the Board of Supervisors to discuss funding. I can tell y'all, based off the quotes already, it's not going to be cheap. These systems that we're going to have to implement for the county is anywhere between $85,000 and $145,000. That's not counting the stations, what they're going to have to pay out of pocket to renovate their station, procure their drugs, update their cameras and stuff like that. So food for thought there. I know the director has already been talking and thinking about this and maybe talking to Kim. Director Key, if you just want to touch on kind of what we talked about before the meeting and once we get there with how we're going to try to pay for this maybe.
Yeah, well, Ms. Vanderhyde actually brought it to my attention that we could possibly use the capital reserve fund for that. There's over $70,000 in that at this point. It is used for emergency expenditures, unforeseen. So she said she didn't see why it wouldn't qualify. We just had to be approved by the board. So.
And I think that's a great, obviously this is an emergency. We didn't know this was coming, or at least we didn't know what exactly it was going to entail. So again, I hope next meeting or the following meeting after that for sure, we will be bringing a recommendation to this body to send to the board. I don't know, so if we do the capital reserve fund, it will cover a good portion of what's going to be needed. But is each agency going to have to apply for that? Or okay, so each agency will have to apply for that funding. So that's something we'll help y'all, the association, public safety, the director, the commission will help get out to the agencies to make sure that they have what they need and that they can get it here to go through the formalities so we can get it to the Board of Supervisors. I can tell you the board members I've talked to, I know Mr. Tucker come here last meeting and talked to us. They're going to try to do everything they can to make this as easy as possible on our end. So we just got to get all this side of it done and then give it to them to hopefully pass. So I think I touched on it pretty well, Casey. Anything I need to add? Any questions for me or Casey? Perfect. All right, guys, we will update y'all again next month. And like I said, the only thing I can say is November's coming, so all the volunteer agencies keep on sending those representatives so we can get this done. All right, that brings us down to item D, Fire and EMS billing rates update, and this is going to be Vice Chair King.
Yes, I talked to Chief Fowler. He and I have been in communications for a while. We hadn't really met yet, but after, hopefully we can meet in the next week or so. Commissioner Atkins, he's been pulling some information from different states, so we can have some research done. But Chief, we was looking at the ordinance, because he called me and asked me about the ordinance. He said the ordinance had to be changed. I said, I remember we did it. But anyway, we found the updated information, as Chief Morocco said, so we're still in process. So hopefully we're going to meet in the next couple of weeks and have something concrete to bring back to the body on the next meeting.
Awesome, thank you. And I will say I appreciate whoever found the updated copy, because I thought we had changed that
We did.
in a past.
I remembered it, but I couldn't remember when.
So basically, so everybody understands, the foundation's there, the ordinance is there, it just doesn't have a fee schedule. So we gotta figure out what that's going to be, and then pass it here, and then ultimately the Board of Supervisors has to approve it. So, all right, thank you, Vice Chair. All right, that brings us down to item E, the Brownsville Fire and Rescue Capital Reserve funding request. I believe this is in your packet, and I'm going to turn it over to Director Key.
Yeah, Chief Draper couldn't be here tonight to present this, but I'm going to present it on his behalf. The Brownsville Fire Department has put in a capital reserve fund request for the amount of $4,000. The capital reserve fund shall be appropriated at the discretion of the Board of Supervisors after a recommendation from the Fire and Rescue Commission. The capital reserve fund is intended to address unforeseen emergency financial needs of fire and rescue agencies. They actually had a brush truck that the transmission went out on. It's a 2012 Ford F-350 brush truck. They bought it used. They've got preliminary quotes between $6,000 and $7,000 for replacement. The application is in your packet if any of y'all need to read it. They did have to provide a financial report, which is part of your packet. You can review that also. And then also included the actual guidelines of the capital reserve fund for review also.
All right, gentlemen, so if y'all want to take a moment to review that information in your packet, we will entertain discussion, but just so you guys know, we'll have to have a motion and a second to send this to the Board of Supervisors, so y'all can review that information and then we can talk about it. And Director Key, just so clarification for everybody here, they have followed the correct process to your understanding for everything?
Yes,
for
sir.
this request?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So,
Also, Director Key, this amount that they're requesting is all that's in that line, right? How much is in that line?
That's the same one we was just discussing. There was over $70,000 in that line.
Oh, okay. So they want how much out of it?
Well, they'd like all of it, but they can't get it. The maximum is $4,000.
Okay.
It's up to y'all to decide, whether they give them that amount or to change it, but they've asked for $4,000.
all right, questions or comments for the director?
Is that a one-time, I think, is that, because we plan on using that for the drug boxes, if it all goes through, is that correct? What's
Yes.
left?
Yes.
But if another,
The SOP doesn't state you can only use it one time a year or what, so.
but if there's nothing in that budget item left, that's it. If we
Yes,
use it
but
for
that-
drug boxes, when it's gone, it's gone.
Yes, but that amount rolls over every year.
Yeah,
So, and basically what it comes from is any agencies that don't meet that 70% of call volume, instead of that money losing it, that money goes into this capital reserve fund.
okay.
So it's still expected about another $10,000 to be rolled over into that fund this year.
Okay.
So with these figures I'm looking here, $7,500 to $8,500, and we can allow up to 4,000, what is that contingency for the remaining funding to do that repair?
I would guess it's going to come out of their budget.
I mean, I just wondered,
They're-
had they already stated, that they had X amount of money to put toward that?
I can't advise on that one, but I mean, they're showing their funding on the next page, so.
Yeah.
It appears with all investments, CDs, and savings, they should have enough to cover the other.
Well, that's kind of what I was looking at. So,
And I will say, guys, even though the drug boxes are a very big deal, please don't let that cloud your judgment on current issues that come up right now. We still have to provide service, fire and EMS right now.
They're going to have to fix the truck one way or
They
the
gotta
other.
fix
They're
the
just
truck either
asking
way.
for help with the funding.
It's kind of our job to say if we think it's a proper request based off of what they applied for and the information they've provided, and then let the board decide ultimately yes or no. It's just here is we're kind of giving them we're kind of diving in deep so that they got a good recommendation for them to make a decision, but it's ultimately their decision. But I would say just, even though I'm very keen on the drug boxes right now, don't let that cloud your judgment, because again, we still have to operate. And there's standalone fire departments as well out there that if they have a breakage, or we're going to tell them, well, we got drug boxes to fix, we can't give you any money.
Do we just need a motion?
Yes, we'd have to have a motion for it, yeah.
Okay. I'll move that we approve Brownsville Fire and Rescue's capital reserve funding request to be forwarded to the Board of Supervisors in the amount of $4,000.
I got a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
I have a second. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, call the roll, please.
Jimmy Atkins,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland,
Yes.
Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Brian Shields,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew.
yes.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. That motion carries unanimously. If you would notify Chief Draper that money has been approved up to 4,000.
Yes, sir.
And it's going to the board now.
Yes,
so.
it's got to go to the board.
Yep. All right, that brings us down to item F, Fire and Rescue Service Agreement, Director Key.
The county has Volunteer Fire Rescue Agency sign an annual service agreement that spells out the expectations of both parties. Attached is the draft of the FY 2025 Fire and Rescue Service Agreement for review and approval if so desired.
And I believe, guys, the Fire and Rescue Agreement is in your packet. So now would be the time. Chief Maracas, this agreement was approved, correct, by the association? Okay. The one question I had, and I ran out of time before the meeting, about the service agreement, is does any language need to be added about these drug boxes, about the requirements? I mean, we're still kind of navigating that thing, so the way I envision it, maybe that's something for next year we're going to have to put in, but I'd say for this year, we're going to be okay, because really nothing takes place till November 27th. Well, that's going to be into the new year. And we don't know exactly, our committee's still working to identify exactly what all this is going to entail. So I would say just keep that in the back of your mind. Next year, we're probably going to need to make some changes or some additions to this agreement based off requirements for the drug boxes and or if the county gives us additional funding to try to put those into place. But I would say probably for this year. I know that question has kind of come up from a couple people to me, but I don't see where it would need to be put in right now. Chief Maracas, do you concur or do?
I would agree.
Okay.
We're still waiting on all these guidelines as it is, so.
Okay. So any other questions? Yes, sir. Yeah, so you'll notice, guys, in there, the pay per call That is the same as it was this previous year. Nothing changed there. The call requirements and how our money is paid out in the block funding. So each agency, it didn't change from last year, will get, is it 50%, Chris, up front? Is that how they do it?
50, 35, 15.
Yeah, 50, 35, and then the addition, the last is based off your call service, correct? So you'll get 50% up front, 35% a second payout in January, and then the last pot of money is based off the agency's performance. Have they met the requirements, which I believe if you look at 75%, is that correct, or 70?
70.
70%, it's in here somewhere if I would just read, but yeah, 70%, they have to meet call. And if that money, if they do not meet the 70% required, that money goes back into the capital reserve fund.
Yes, sir.
So that money's not just lost. You know, the board doesn't take it and reappropriate it. I mean, they can, but right now the way it's set up, they have it set up that money rolls back into the capital reserve fund for emergencies.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
based on a recommendation coming from the Fire and Rescue Association, I make a recommendation we accept it as written.
Okay. I got a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Jimmy Atkins,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland,
Yes.
Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Brian Shields,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. That motion passes unanimously. Brings us down to item 14, other matters from the commission members. We're going to start over here to my right. Chief Maracas, we'll start with you.
Nothing to be added.
All right. Commissioner Casper.
Nothing.
All right, moving right along. Mr. Atkins, Commissioner Atkins.
I have nothing at this time.
All right, I'll come back to you, Vice Chair. Director Key.
Nothing to add, sir.
All right, Casey. Ms. C. All right. Mr. Rowland.
I want to thank everybody for the great job they're doing in keeping up with everything. I'm very proud of the volunteers of these organizations. And keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Steve Stallings. All right, Mr. Shields.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to thank the men and the women across this county that make it happen every day. I'd like to reiterate what Ward said. There's a lot of committees, a lot of behind-the-scene work, and a lot of people that do it every day that don't get anything for it, and much appreciated. To Public Safety, thank you for each and every day that you answer the call, and for our Board of Supervisors who work continuously to try to help the fire and rescue across this county. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Cassell. All right, Mr. Mayhew.
I'd just like to thank all those that serve the county.
Thank you, sir. All right, Vice Chair.
Oh, yes. Well, I thank y'all for working on that drug box, getting it. I know it's been some tireless hours going into that. That's why I hadn't really bothered anybody. But it's been a lot of hours going into it, but it looks like y'all are on top of it and, you know, moving us forward with it. So thank y'all, the committee that's doing that. Casey, thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, gentlemen. Again, I appreciate everybody on this commission. You guys do a great job. I know sometimes it doesn't seem like we're doing a lot up here, but there's different committees behind the scenes that are working to bring things here so we can make, hopefully, the life easier for our fire and rescue services and for our board members to make good, sound decisions for them. I would like to thank our volunteers. I would like to thank our public safety staff, our EMS council. They've been very helpful so far. Like I said, big shout out to KCC. She's been helpful to me. All the agencies for sending representatives to that committee meeting. I can't reiterate, you know, we've spent now probably 5 to 6 hours meeting. That's not counting all the behind-the-scenes stuff, emails back and forth, other meetings, documentation that's been kind of gathered by everybody. It is National EMS Week, so I wanted to thank all of our EMS providers for what they do for the county. That's public safety, all the volunteers, everything from driver operators to providers, you know, EMTs and medics, to your command staffs, your officers, the director, anybody that's involved with making sure ambulances go out every day. This week is for you, and it's been dedicated for the EMS providers. And I just wanted to share some statistics from the Office of EMS website. So EMS Week recognizes the dedication of 38,721 EMS providers in the state of Virginia, 552 agencies in the state of Virginia. Last year, EMS providers responded to more than 1.72 million calls for help in Virginia, which represents approximately 4,712 incidents per day. So, to put that into perspective, guys, our people stays very busy serving the communities all over, and they do a great job. Sometimes it doesn't look like we always get along, but we always make sure we find a way to get it done and serve the citizens. And, that's thankful to the people that come and work and volunteer and ride ambulances in our county. So we appreciate them. I want to thank Mr. Tucker and Mr. Mary Whittle. They're here tonight. Our board, it's great to have y'all. Chief Neal, thank you for being here. And, for all the folks listening at home, if you see a volunteer out, thank them for their service, because they're working hard for this county and saving us tax-paying money. So that's all I have. Y'all have a good night. Meeting's adjourned.